Welcome to It's a Grand Life, where our mission is to be a voice for grand families and kinship caregivers everywhere. Did you know that in the United States alone, there are 2.3 million grandparents raising their grandchildren? 2.3 million. It's a Grand Life is committed to making a difference for those kids. That's why we have the podcast, a Facebook group, and the Grand Fund. The Grand Fund, which is a 501c3 which was launched in June of 2024, provides financial assistance to grand families, including shelter, food, clothing, and household needs. Grand families are in every neighborhood, in every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, we're here for you. And we welcome you to join us on this mission. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. You can also join our Facebook group. Just search for it under It's a Grand Life. And your reviews, comments, and sharing of our podcasts help us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash. I'd like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. And you run into some folks that pull you down a little bit and others that lift you up. And our guest today on It's a Grand Life is Domenic Morelli, one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life. And he is the founder of FaithWorks, a group out of the religious community here in Michigan that does a lot of work for grandparents all over Metro Detroit. And Domenic, we just want to thank you for joining us here on It's a Grand Life. And I can't wait to hear your story, because what our listeners don't know, in addition to that ministry that you run, you also have raised your grandkids as a part. So you've had a grand family experience. And why don't I just start with that? How was it for you, Domenic Morelli, raising your grandkids?
Well, thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. And, raising grandchildren is different than raising children, as you probably know, and many of our listeners know, because you're another generation away from them. Right. And so we were fortunate enough to get three of our grandchildren, our oldest three, we have 9, our oldest three, when they turned 18. They didn't have a great family life. They had some issues. But we were fortunate to have a home big enough to bring them in, and they had their own space. And through that time, we tried to learn how to communicate with them, which we realize many times you speak a different language. And you also have different styles and different communication skills and different forms of communication. So we through this process, my wife Verna is a wonderful lady and in many ways a lot more patient than me. But we realized they needed two things probably more than anything. They needed love.
Yep.
And they needed security. They needed a safe place. And so those are the two things that I think we tried to give them, because that's part of what they were lacking. They're individuals like we are. They want to be themselves. We want them to grow in who they are and who God sees them as. And but there was a lot of troubling times. I'm not saying we did it all perfectly, Craig, because we didn't.
Right.
We ran into a lot of crossroads, but we also realized we had rules in the house. They weren't big rules, but
Yep.
they were rules that I think every family should have. They're regarding respecting each other in the house, keeping the house clean, picking up after one another, realizing that you're a family, that you're not separate silos living in a house. It's not like they're paying rent and they have their own space to live in. We gave them their own space, but we tried to help them. And then we learned through the process. We learned what we did wrong and what we did right. The best thing is once they all moved out, which was after 7 years, we either had one or two of them in the home at one time, but after 7 years, they all moved out. Number one, they still like us.
Amazing.
They call us. We have relationships with them. They love us. We love them. And so we did get to a really good place when they got on their own and became adults that were contributing to the community.
That's just fantastic. So did you have all three at one time ever?
The most we had was two
Okay.
at once. The oldest now is married, living north of Detroit. She has two children.
Right.
We have two great grandchildren, which is also wonderful. Blessed to have that. And as the older you get, you realize that one of the most important things is breathing into the next generation.
Mhm.
And that comes from your family, but it also comes from your neighborhood and your community. It's what has God taught us through our life, and what does He want us to share with the next generation?
That is absolutely excellent. So I had a question about you said the two things that kids need was love and security. How did you find out about the security piece? Were they just anxious or?
Yeah, I think things that you learn through the process, you hear things from what they say, you feel things spiritually that they don't feel safe, right? So it's constant to let them know that, hey, you're not judging them. You may not agree with everything they do or say,
Right.
but you're not judging them, and this is a safe place. That we want them to use this home as their own home, but just to be respectful of the home and respectful of the people in the home. And that takes a long time, Craig,
Yeah.
and you don't say it just once,
Right.
right? You have to be consistently the same way, and they don't want to see their grandparents as waffling on them. They want that safety and security, and you need to be a good foundation.
It- I know your faith is really important to you, and uh, how did that help you raise your grandkids?
Well, if it wasn't for our relationship with Jesus, and that's where our strength and our foundation is, we could not have done any of this, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't do this from your own power. There's a higher power that is in you and through you, and that's what allows you to do the work that you do in life. That's what allows you to live your life. And Jesus, through the storms of our life, He's with us. And through the storms of our life, that's what we can hold on to. We know that never changes. And that allowed us to help with our grandkids because on our own, from my own Italian background, I would have thrown them on the street. I'd be so upset, like, get out, right?
That's
But
right.
that's not really the healthy approach. And that's not really my heart either. Even though sometimes you can get pretty angry at some of the things they do, but you
Absolutely.
realize in your heart that you do love them.
Yeah.
And these are just challenges that life throws at you. And how can you teach them through these challenges?
Well, and model that. And I'm sure you guys modeled your faith in front of your grandkids, and the great rest of the story is you're still close to them. So that is
Right, right.
whatever you did really worked.
Yeah, they still like us, which I'm glad because we love them. So.
Now, were you running FaithWorks at the time that the Grants were living with you?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, all three of them have worked on FaithWorks projects.
That's
I asked them to come with me and shared what we were doing. And I was blessed to be one of the co-founders. There was seven of us when we started.
yeah,
Our brother Bill Pino was supposed to be here with us today. He couldn't. We're going to be praying for him.
yeah.
And but Bill has always been an inspiration to me. He's been a great guy of invitation. What I've always loved about Bill is he's an invitation person. He's got that spirit, and he always invites people. And Jesus always did that. Jesus always invited people on the journey. So because of Bill's invitation, that's how I got connected in a small group study. And as seven of us started really by meeting at Panera in the morning, having coffee and throwing in $5 to help people in need. And that grew to, we realized that God was calling us to something further. So we in our small group, we went through a project called the Truth Project.
Okay.
And the Truth Project was a Bible study for 13 weeks. It was a 45-minute DVD and then 45 minutes of discussion. And it was held by Del Tackett, who was a teacher. It was like a theology course.
Yeah.
At the end of that, we just felt compelled that God was telling us to do something. Go do something, right? And all of us had different ideas, and one person said, we have to pray about this. And in our prayer time, God brought us to two Bible verses. James 1:27 is pure religion is to serve widows and orphans in their need and not be polluted by the world. And then James 2:18 is basically show me your faith and we'll show you our works.
Right.
So we realized that that's where faith work started. Faith work started
Oh, I
with
love that. Yeah.
showing your faith and doing the works that God's called you to do. And that's how the name started.
So it's not all about sitting in church alone enough on Sunday morning. One time, oh, I've paid my dues for the week and I'll go back to my job. It's putting your faith into action.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, what we learned is, that quiet time with God is very important as well, as you mentioned. But then the spirit in you sort of wells up in your heart and you say, what am I going to do with the gifts and talents that God's given me? And what we found out, this is our 15th year, so we're all volunteers. Many religious people have told us that we don't have a sustainable program, that it won't last. And I always laugh about that. I would say, well, you think we want this to last, right? You think we're doing this for career or for money or
Right.
no, we're doing this because this is what we feel God's calling us to do. And what we realize is if you just serve God and serve others, God will provide everything. And He has. God has provided people, which are the most important, people that brought talent and ability, people that brought finances, people that brought materials. And I could tell you hundreds of stories that would blow your mind how God showed up on jobs. And we're just humbled because it wasn't about us.
Right.
But God made it about us. God gave us that love and that enjoyment of doing the work that He called us to do. And even though we served others and they were filled with joy and love and crying and tears, we were too. It just affected us so immensely that we can't stop doing it. It's just like every day you go out and you go, okay, here's another day. And what do you got planned today, God?
Dominic, that's so good. And one of our mutual friends, Greg Long, is one of your team members there at FaithWorks. And what our listeners need to know is what they really specialize in, and correct me if I'm wrong, is working with a lot of folks that are stuck in their house or their condo or their apartment because they don't have a ramp to get out. They may be wheelchair bound or maybe have some other disability they're wrestling with. And you will go in and put a ramp on in like a morning in someone's house. And you do this and like every Saturday. And last year you did 36 ramps.
We did. Yeah.
And you're at like 27 for this year.
So far for this year, 27. Yeah.
So imagine being incarcerated, for lack of a better term, in your house, and you're not able to go outside and see the snow or the sun or anything. And then this group called FaithWorks comes along, a group of average, normal guys that were in a Bible study. And God said, why don't you do something? And you guys the story is just profound. It's just,
thank you.
hearing and obeying. And now we're 15 years later.
Right. Well, Greg has been not just a member, but a true leader. Greg is phenomenal, and he's definitely one of the ramp leaders, and he has a great construction background. He sees the design in his head even before we get to the job. So having him lay it out was great. And you're 100% right, Craig. It's people that have been imprisoned in their home.
Yeah.
And even though the home's a blessing from God, but what also is a blessing is the freedom and the independence to go in and out of the home, right? And when you lose that, you don't realize that, right? So the three probably main areas that FaithWork is focused is ramps, furnaces, hot water tanks. Imagine being in Michigan and not having a furnace. We've had some grandparents that have opened their stove and put blankets on the window because that's how they keep their home warm. So for us to be able to supply a furnace and for for the ramp guys, we got into a program, a schedule, and Greg is really the one that sort of gave us this format of it. And I sort of helped do a lot of the coordination of identifying the home, identifying the need, making sure that the person is really in need. We don't put ramps up for everybody. We
Right.
put ramps up for people that can't afford it, because many people can afford a ramp. We have some partners that are ramp builders that do this for profit. So we don't
Right.
want to take their business from them. Right.
Right.
We're going to do this for people that wouldn't be able to buy or rent a ramp. But the people that can buy or rent, we want to send them to people that are doing this, because, we're in a free enterprise society. They
Right.
deserve to make the money that they're making, because they're still blessing them with a ramp, but they can afford it. The ones that can't afford it, that you realize someone's been in their home a year or 2 years and hasn't been able to get out of their home. There
Oh.
was a lady in Southfield that Greg and I tell the story about a lot. Wonderful woman. She hadn't been out of her house in 3 years.
Oh.
She needed a 36-foot ramp with two platforms. And her and her husband bought a 12-foot ramp because they thought that could work. And they didn't even know how to put it up. And when we went to visit her, we had the full team. We built a great ramp. She wept on the ramp. She came out. She saw us praying on the ramp. She said, "I have to go out with them and pray on the ramp." So she came out and prayed with us on the ramp, and it was overwhelming for her and her husband. And he took her up and down that ramp like she was on a ride from Cedar Point, and she loved it. And then he said, "Okay, now we're going to go back in the house." And she said, "No, no, we're not going to go in the house. I want to go to Walmart.
Right.
I haven't been out of the house. I'm going to Walmart." And we laughed, and we thought that was great. But then she said something else, and this is how God uses people. She said, "Mr. Dom, I haven't been able to take a bath or a shower," because she was a large lady, wonderful lady. But she said, "I need like a therapy tub." And that's something we don't normally do. And
Mhm.
I said to her, "Well, let's pray about it." I said, "It's not something we normally do, but if God delivers this, we will be happy to install it for you."
Wow.
And 2 weeks later, she called me, Mr. Dom, I have a tub." I started laughing, and I said, "You do?" And there was this gentleman in Washington Township that had a tub, and he worked with it Knights of Columbus. And I called him, wonderful guy. And I thought at first, she said he'd give us the tub for $200. And I thought, well, I know these tubs are like 3 or 4,000. And I
Right.
thought, what condition could this tub be in? I was a little worried, and I didn't want to get her hopes up. And I said, well, let's see what happens. So I called him, and he said, "Oh, it's a brand new tub. I just took it out of a model." And I'm like, "Really?" "Yeah." So we worked it out where our plumber picked up the tub. And then he said, "Are you the FaithWorks group that puts up ramps?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I've been collecting ramp pieces for years.
Amazing.
And if you would, you can come out here, and they're all scattered in my backyard. You can have them if you can pick them up and bring a trailer." So we did. We brought a team, picked up all the ramp pieces. And I said to the person that we served in Southfield, "You had to be a part of this." I said, "Because God worked through you to connect us to Chris up in Washington Township, who gave us about $5,000 worth of parts to put ramps up for other people." So I said, "See how God works. We're all connected. We're all in relationship, and we're all connected." And I said, God just continued to show me that the provision comes wherever God wants the provision to come, not necessarily for us to always think we're going to have to bring the provision. God will deliver it through the people that he wants a part of this.
Now, that is just an amazing story, and I'm sure the gentleman from the Knights of Columbus, he was blessed at connecting with you guys, and his property is a lot cleaner. That all the ramp stuff is now deployed as opposed to just in storage. But um, how have you seen the trickle effect of the starting at the first ramp, and now here we are 15 years later? How have you seen the ripple effect of what you've done for folks throughout Metro Detroit area? And as more folks hear about the faith works in action, what has been the response as far as support and other things that you've really seen some growth, I would imagine?
The support has been great. But I want you to know, Craig, we don't care if FaithWorks gets bigger. That's never been our approach. Our approach has always been do what God's called you to do. We would love to coach other teams to do this and show them how to do it. We don't care. We don't have to get bigger. I mean, God has grown us pretty large. We're over 100 members, and people do send in checks and money because we're a 501c3. We are a nonprofit that there's no paid employees. 95% of the donation goes toward the cause. But what we've said to other churches and other nonprofits, join us if you want to partner with us. That's great. The other way of doing it is if you have your own group, men's, women's group, whatever, we can show you how to put a ramp up. It doesn't take that long. And for people that are in need, we do it now Saturday mornings. Once we hit the job site, if we're there between 8:30 and 9, we're leaving by noon.
That's
So,
great. Yeah.
so we can put any size ramp up in that time. We've done it a 8-foot ramp, a 12-foot ramp, a 35, 48-foot ramp, because once it's sort of like being adults building a Lego set, you know. We have fun doing it. And the other thing we talk about, Craig, is joy. This is not a job, right? This is a blessing to serve God and serve others and find the joy in it. If you're doing it because you think it's a job, then you're going to take the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it wasn't meant for that. It was meant to walk in this, to look who God's bringing you to serve, and bringing a team together to serve together and be joyful. We kid each other, we laugh, we tell jokes. Most people pick on me, which I'm okay. I got big shoulders. But I love it because we have a great team. We got great leaders. We have great members, and we have great partners. And you can't do it without all of that.
No, what that's absolutely amazing. So you don't necessarily want your original FaithWorks to get bigger, but you're really open to other franchises coming on. When you work with any religious group and train folks or whatever, and any community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it'd be great if we had one in Lansing and Jackson and Traverse City and
Yeah.
really covered the whole state. And it's a great opportunity to serve with a 15-year track record.
Yeah, we'd be honored to do that. We've actually worked through other people in other states as well.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, this morning I met with a gentleman that wants to build a ramp on an Indian reservation in Arizona, New Mexico. And I'm showing him how to do that. And we may be a part of that. I have no idea yet. It's all in God's hands. But I know one thing. Yeah, even though we serve Jesus and we follow Jesus, Jesus always accepted everyone. So
Right.
everyone's accepted on our teams. I mean, we have wonderful people on our team that are not Jesus followers, and that's okay with us because God had called us to come together and show his love and spread his love to the world. So we don't just serve Christians, and Christians aren't the only ones that join us. There's many Jesus followers that join us and many other people that join us. And when we serve people, we don't ask them their religious affiliation. We just say, God brought them to us. If they're in need, if they're elderly, if they're disabled, if they're in financial need and they can't afford this, we just ask God for the provision, and he delivers. When he doesn't deliver, we tell people it doesn't mean you're not worth it. What
Right.
it means is we may not be the vehicle to deliver it to you. Right? We're only going to follow what God tells us to do. If God delivers it to us, we know we can deliver it to you. But it's not like we're this big organization. We got millions in the bank. We got a warehouse full of ramps. No, as they come in, they go out. As the money
Right.
comes in, it goes out. As the ramps come in, they go out. And we tell people that if it's for us, it's great. The other day, one of our partners called us. And I was driving to U-Haul. U-Haul's blessed us with a space to keep the ramps. And this partner said, I'm at this home. The gentleman just came home from the hospital. He needs a temporary ramp inside his home. How quickly could we get one? And I said, well, I'm just driving to U-Haul right now. Where's the home? And it was like not even 15 minutes away from where I
Amazing.
was. So I said, well, show me a picture of what it looks like so I know the ramp to bring. And literally within 20 minutes, I had a temporary ramp inside the home where this person that just came home from the hospital could now enter the home and get to their bedroom and bathroom. And the wife of the gentleman that's sick and now he's in hospice, gave me a hug, and she was crying and she said, I can't believe how quick this happened. And I said, well, it's all in God's timing.
Right.
I
100%.
it's all in God's time. I said, sometimes it happens that quickly. And sometimes it's weeks or months down the road before something happens. So we don't make the timing up. We just follow what God tells us to do.
So the title of the organization is Faith Works, but it's really a faith work. I mean, it's just in time, delivery. I mean, you don't have a million ramps sitting in the U-Haul, but for that particular scenario, you had one that fit, and it was in within 20 minutes or so, or 30. But so I love that your name is actually 100% accurate.
Yeah.
It is a faith work. It has been from the beginning. And when our show is edited by our producer, at the bottom of our screen, it'll say Faith Works and your website and the phone number to get in touch with folks there. And of course, here at It's a Grand Life, we just launched the Grand Fund to help grandparents who are raising grandkids. And as I mentioned to you off the air, we want to help with a ramp as well. So if there's a grandparent who needs a ramp, we would like to partner with FaithWorks, and I can't think of better partners than Greg and Bill and Dom, and see if we can't help you with a new ramp. And we want to be a blessing, especially folks in our area. We're not going to California with ramps at this point or anything like that, but we've got a winter coming on very shortly here in Michigan, and boy, it'd be nice to have a ramp for one of our grandparents. And we would just love to be partners with you in that project and see where God takes us, because there's no shortage of folks that need ramps, right, Dom?
Right. Not at all, Craig. And thank you for that. That's a blessing. Thank you. We're honored to partner with you. And I love the name of your group. I love the Grand Life. That's beautiful. And it is. We have to be very thankful for the life we have. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Well, what we're finding, and I could just tell by your story, the joy is in the service. And we just, for the first time last month, we felt God leading us to start this fund. And it's not filled with $1 million or anything like that, but we were able to help 5 families last month, and 2 in the city of Detroit, where the school kids needed uniforms for school. They don't want to go there with their street clothes. And we had another grandma near Traverse City who had a mobile home. This could be a FaithWorks type thing, but she had a mobile home that the door was just terrible, and it leaked all sorts of air and didn't fit right. And we, through one of our partners over there, they put a brand new door on a mobile home. So this lady in northern Michigan is going to have a warm winter. And we've dealt with some folks in the Pontiac area as well. There's a family that was on the streets, and we helped them with a hotel for a month. But that's where the joy is. It's putting your faith at work and really living it out. And we just thank you so much for being our guest here, and It's a Grand Life, and just give our best to our friend Mr. Pino. Maybe when you do an update, Lord willing, we'll get Bill on and
That'd
to
be
share what's
great.
going on. But do you have any final words of encouragement for our listeners, our grandparents who are raising grandkids like you and your lovely wife did?
Well, I would say to the grandparents, be encouraged that God's called you to probably the most important thing you can do. Helping raise your children or grandchildren is a great vocation, and it's great to show them God's love through you. So just be encouraged that we're all together in this. You're not alone in this. And then for all the folks listening, I would just say, listen to what God's telling you to do in your life. He's not planned us to be couch potatoes. He wants to use the gifts he's given you to honor him and to bless the community. And part of the community is your family, but it's also your neighbor. And who is your neighbor? So use those gifts and talents, however God's calling you. If it's joining a FaithWorks type of group, great. If it's working at your local school, great. Whatever it is, do it, and you're going to find joy, and find the joy in it. And don't be too judgmental of our neighbors. Right now we're in a society that wants to separate us. We're more important, and we're more strong together as one. And we have more in common than we do than what separates us. So focus on the common ground.
Oh, I absolutely love that. If Dom went on any longer, we'd have to take an offering. That was a good. Well, Thanks so much for being our guest here on It's a Grand Life, Domenic Morelli, and I hope you'll join us again and give us an update on where God has taken Faith Works. I know you just blessed a bunch of folks today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. You have a great day. God bless you, brother.
You got it. Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the grand life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.